Now, from Wish TV, your local news source, this is All Indiana Politics.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome to another edition of All Indiana Politics. I'm Phil Sanchez. Next year's Attorney General's race is coming into focus. Destiny Wells says she will seek the Democratic nomination for that office. She's challenging Republican incumbent Todd Rokita, who's seeking a second term. You might remember Wells from her campaign for Secretary of State last year. Well, she sat down with our government reporter Garrett Berquist for her first television interview after her campaign launch.
Let's bring in Destiny Wells. Destiny, welcome back to the program.
Hey, great to be here.
Tell me about your decision to run for Attorney General.
Well, I had been mulling over the decision for the last couple of months, and I just could not leave what was on the table that we left last year. We built a lot of infrastructure in our Secretary of State race, and we started from scratch. So we're going to try again and do this time, and we're super excited.
You said you want to restore ethical conduct to that office, and you plan to lead by example in order to do so. In practice, what would that look like day to day?
Well, it would look like not getting my license suspended or having my license censured, right? So we have been seeing a lot of that coming out of the day-to-day office affairs under the last two attorneys general. And so what we want to do is restore integrity and professionalism to the office. I've worked in that office before. I've even worked as a line dag, and I understand the day-to-day affairs. I understand the expectations that are put on the staff and where there are areas for improvement and how to get back to business in the office.
You've strongly criticized Indiana's abortion ban, as well as the laws that target transgender youth in sports and gender-affirming care for minors. If you were elected Attorney General, would you enforce those laws or defend them in court?
What I would not do is what has been happening lately, and that is where the Attorney General is using investigative demands to go on a bit of a witch hunt, whether it be the Department of Health, the Indiana Department of Health and our own agencies, or whether it be investigative demands, which is a subpoena-like power with hospital corporations. So I would not be out searching for the cases, but I would have the responsibility in upholding the laws as set by the legislature and executive.
You said you would want to enact a Workers' Bill of Rights if you were elected Attorney General. What would that entail?
So we've seen over the last couple of years the Parents' Bill of Rights, despite having an Indiana Department of Education. And so let's look at what we actually need. We have not had a Democratic Attorney General since before Right to Work. And so the needs have changed. And we need to look at our surrounding states and how they're better than us. The Illinois Attorney General's office has a very robust labor division where they are looking at issues like worker misclassification and wage theft. And so we want to help Hoosiers in that way and work with whether it be supporting union needs and making sure that we are giving enough resources to work and collaborate with local prosecutors. And we can do anything from having a task force of a couple line attorney deputies, some deputies, attorney general, or we can look at it from an even more robust perspective, like in Illinois, where they have an entire labor division devoted to that.
Would you pursue any enforcement actions against social media companies such as TikTok, as the current Attorney General has done?
So what we've seen is a very deliberate effort by the Republican AGs Association, by RAGA, to jump on litigation throughout the country. It could be not just social media, it could be a pipeline in Montana, it could be a climate bill in California, it could be a border issue down in Texas, and those are very hyper-partisan political issues. Similarly to social media, there are concerns in social media, and you can see that not only in the Democrat AGs Association, but also the Republicans. But it needs to be in a purposeful way and not just a way to get on the news or to copy, the Texas AG's office. If there's already litigation out there, we need to be more mindful about how we use our resources within the Indiana Attorney General's office.
In 2022, you, Tom McDermott, and Zanae Brooks ran as a more or less united slate of candidates. This time around, do you plan to do that again, or would you be focused more on your individual run for AG?
Well, and there was also Jessica McClellan, who was running for treasurer, and so that was a very united ticket. And what we want to do again this time is to be a united front. I just spoke with Jennifer McCormick on the phone last night, and we talked about how we were going to do that. And you know, the AG's office, there's only one current AG. He's not the governor. And so I need to be focused on the AG's office and what we can do better when it comes to that office as compared to who may be the Senate candidate when we find out in May, or our only gubernatorial primary candidate right now, and that's Jennifer.
You took home 40% of the vote when you ran for Secretary of State in 2022, and that race did not feature an incumbent candidate. What makes this election different?
Well, it was a midterm, right? And so we had, just like I discussed all last year, we had a turnout issue in the midterm. And we did not see turnout that we wanted in the urban areas. And a Democrat cannot be successful unless they have that turnout. And so we are looking at a very different year. This will be a presidential year, and we will have much more people showing up to vote. And yet to be determined what next year's presidential ticket looks like. But we will take that as it comes, and we expect it to be a very different year, and that's why we are doing this again. We are very optimistic that we will be working with more of the electorate, and we will also be looking at issues that we underestimated last year, and that is straight ticket voting, right? I don't think anybody understood how polarized the electorate was last year with straight ticket voting, where people are walking in, they're just pulling for their party, and they're not considering the candidates. We expect that people will be looking much more closely at the candidates next year, just by virtue of what is at the top of the ticket in a possible, you know, Donald Trump, President Biden matchup, and maybe a third-party candidate.
What do you believe sets you apart from any other potential Democratic candidates for Attorney General?
Exactly what I just said, that we are the only candidate that will have the infrastructure from running a down ballot race last year. I have our infrastructure when it comes to party support from Northwest Indiana across and down south. I got to know a ton of people last year, and when it comes to that infrastructure within the party and having that statewide party support, I believe I am unmatched in that regard.
All right, coming up, we sit down with an Indiana mayor-elect who will make history when he takes office. Coming up. Welcome back. The city of Marion in Grant County will have a new mayor on January 1st. Ronald Morell Jr. defeated two-term incumbent Jess Alumbaugh at the beginning of the month. Morell is the first black Republican ever elected mayor in Indiana. I talked with him about his plans for his hometown. Ronald Morell Jr. joining us now. Congratulations on the win. Mayor-elect of Marion, Indiana. How does that feel?
It feels great, and thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity to be on the show.
Yeah. So we were talking prior to coming on here. Why did you want to get into politics?
So I have two daughters, one that's 4 and one that's 1 year old, and I wanted to turn Marion specifically into a place that they're proud of. And when they grow up, I want them to raise their family there. That was my motivation.
Sure. So for people who aren't maybe familiar with your background, tell us a little bit about Ronald Morell Jr.
Yeah, so I have a wife, 2 daughters, born and raised in Marion, Indiana. And I'm a Marion native who loves our city and wants to do everything we can to change the narrative around our city. And currently, I'm the executive director for the Boys and Girls Club in Grant County, and that has afforded me the opportunity to be able to get in front of the next generation and see some of their struggles and some of their issues. And now I get to try to address that from a mayoral standpoint to be able to do what's best for our community.
What are some of the biggest challenges facing Marion?
So, I mean, at this moment, we used to have big factories in our city, and they closed about 20 years ago, and we're dealing with multiple generations of people who don't have tangible skills, right? So the trades are a big proponent of were a big proponent of my campaign, and will be a big proponent of my tenure as mayor, is how do we get our next generation invested into the trades, and I'm talking electrical, plumbing, pipe fitting, welding, etc.
Okay, so why do you think your message resonated so well in Marion?
I think that Marion has been stuck in a rut for a long time, and people, the citizens, are ready for a change. And shared that message with them everywhere I went. We did a lot of door knocking.
Sure.
And I believe that's the place where I got my message out across the best, is when you knocked on somebody's door and went to them face to face. And I said, you know, what are you looking for? And everyone said that we've been doing the same thing for so long. We need change and new energy.
Okay, so, and you have a conservative message.
Yes.
Was that received well?
It was, you know, so coming from small town Indiana, it was really overwhelmingly conservative anyway, but my message has always been faith, family, and hard work, and in that order, and that's what I've been since I was a kid. And I mean, as I shared off air, I never really labeled it as conservative or Republican or any of those things until I got into this arena. That's just who I have always been.
Okay, so did you know, you're the first black Republican mayor in the state of Indiana. First off, that's a big tip to the cap, right? That must have felt like a pretty good accomplishment.
Yeah, you know, I mean, there's the historical component is large. I mean, the first black Republican in the state of Indiana mayor is huge. The first black mayor of Marion is huge. I try not to get too wrapped up in the history. I mean, I acknowledge it, and I'm super excited to be, I mean, quite frankly, making United States history at this point.
Sure.
To be able to do something so significant. But I really try to remain focused on how can I take this attention, this historical accomplishment, if you will, and be able to bring all these resources to our city to make sure our citizens benefit from this. Because if I make all this history and don't accomplish anything for our citizens, what's the point?
So first day in office, or the first month in office, I should say, in January, what is the first thing you do?
Well, there's a lot of transition. A lot of our key department heads are retiring, so it's going to be a lot of new hires, shifting things around, and making sure we have a good, solid core of people to move our city forward. So it's really just going to be really a lot of team building for the whole first month.
So a lot of administrative stuff.
Yes.
And then from there, how do you, how do you deliver on the message that you were pushing during the campaign?
Yeah, I think that it starts with staying in front of the people. You know, as a leader or as elected officials, I've noticed a lot of times people get into office and they disappear. They're no longer at the events, they're no longer at the things that got them into the office. So I didn't make any promises along this campaign, but the one promise I am going to make is I will continue to be the leader that I was on the campaign trail. So you'll still see me at the events, you'll still see me at the kids' games, you'll still see me at the schools, and I think that being present and being showing that I actually care about the community will bring about that change. One of the initiatives that I spoke about across the campaign was called Clean City Marion 2.0. And what this initiative is a focus on making sure our city is clean. So getting the trash off the streets, getting the blighted homes and abandoned buildings tore down. And that is something that our citizens are very passionate about. And it'll be one thing for me to sit behind the desk in my office and say, you go clean it, but it'll be a whole other thing when I put the gloves on and roll my sleeves up and clean with the citizens. And that's my vision, and that's how I plan to lead in every aspect of the city.
Ronald Morell Jr., thanks so much for taking the trip down from Marion, Indiana, and being here in studio with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, coming up, Indiana's Best Political Team assesses our early previews of next year's election and legislative session. Welcome back to All Indiana Politics as we welcome in two members of Indiana's Best Political Team, Democrat Ariel Brandy and Republican Whitley Yates. Let's begin with Destiny Wells' announcement, ladies, that she's running for Attorney General. Ariel, Wells already lost one statewide election, as you very well know. Is it wise for Democrats, in your opinion, to gamble on her on a second time here?
I think that Destiny stepping into the race again is great for us as a party and as a state. We know that she garnered not only a lot of attention and the things that she was talking about when she ran for Secretary of State, but now she's put in a place now where she has the voters that are aligned with her vision and what she wanted for a state. We know she can fundraise. We know that she has the experience. So I think all in all, for us, this is a great place for us to be in, to have someone who has worked in the office, but now is ready to hit the trail running with her own support. I think we're in a really great place as a party and as Democrats.
Whitley, both Todd Rokita and his predecessor Curtis Hill, as you know, were reprimanded for their conduct while in office. Should Republicans be worried that this will give Democrats some leverage?
I mean, if people are expecting everyone to be perfect, then I guess maybe the Democrats can utilize that as leverage. But the truth is, come what may, what the Indiana courts have said or reprimanded has nothing to do with how voters feel about how the state of Indiana is handling its legal affairs. And the truth is they overwhelmingly voted for Curtis Hill, overwhelmingly voted for Todd Rokita. Destiny Wells was rejected by Indiana voters overwhelmingly in the past election. And after that, now she has pivoted and switched her positioning and her point to now she's going to run for another office. She will run for anything besides dog catcher to get in a position of power. It seems like a power grab to me, and it's not something that she truly wants to do, but something that she wants for the power only and not to make actual change or be a person of purpose.
Ariel is shaking her head in disagreement. Go ahead.
Absolutely not. I mean, Destiny is well poised to be able to take on this role. I mean, she has served our country time and time again, putting her name on the ballot, but also on the battlefield for us as a country and also as a state. I mean, having the experience alone and also wanting to put Hoosier values and the focus of Hoosier people first in this position is something that we desperately need. We know we're not getting that from Todd Rokita. Hence, all of the lawsuits and the money that is spent on battling over social issues that are happening at our state house and how he's taking away the rights too for folks to be able to have the healthcare protections that they need. We'll finally be able to have that in someone with a candidate like Destiny, who's willing to have those conversations and talk about how she knows how to protect them, not only as a lawyer, but someone who's experienced in the work of the Attorney General's office.
And Whitley, I'll let you respond to that before we move on because we have a lot more to talk about. But what do you also say when Destiny and Ariel make the point that, you know, that Todd Rokita reaches out and gets himself involved in too many conversations that maybe aren't what the Attorney General should be doing?
I mean, I would point to Destiny Wells consistently being involved in the abortion debate and advocating for that. Listen, she lost an election on November 8th, and on November 30th of 2022, she was tweeting at Todd Rokita. So she just shifted or diverted her aim. The truth is, if she wanted to be this person, if she wanted to run for this office, she should have done it in 2022, as she has worked in that office. I don't know why she ran for Secretary of State or why they continue to put her on the ballot when she's been rejected by Hoosier voters. I don't think she has the best interest of Hoosiers at heart. And I know from my own personal interactions on Twitter, she didn't even want to discuss things with me until I had my law degree. So if that is the type of person that they want to put in office, by golly, run her, and I will be on the Rokita train to take her down.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens on that one. Let's turn to the legislative session, okay? Republicans say they want to address chronic truancy and lower reading proficiency scores. That would include holding back nearly all third graders who can't read at the fourth grade level. Whitley, is this smart?
I'm going to be honest. Right now, our entire education system needs to be revamped. And when we're talking about literacy rates and we're talking about the school to prison pipeline, this is a clear indicator. It has been stated on many different research documents that if children cannot read at the third grade level, then they have a greater and more likely chance of ending up in prison. I think that something needs to be done, but it needs to be more than just holding the students back. What types of programs will we have at these schools to get these students up to the level necessary for reading? Those are some of the things that I'm looking for. What type of wraparound services are we going to provide to our students so that they're not just held back and left behind, but that they're able to move up within the educational system and be at the adequate level for their age so that we can be employing and equipping our future leaders to be the best that they can be.
Third grade level, I believe I said fourth grade level. That was my fault. Ariel, about a minute and a half left. Do we need to reconsider how we measure when students are ready to move up to the next grade, next level?
You know, I am in agreement with Whitley. You know, oftentimes there are things that we can agree on, and this is definitely one. Our education system is failing our kids right now, and there are no services for them to turn to. We need to make this a priority moving forward. You know, for us as, you know, moms of school-age children, this is a top priority for us, whether our girls are in the grade or not. We know that we are seeing the direct result of our system failing us, not only in the classroom, but in our own households as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing, as Whitley stated, what those services are going to be and how our state house can come together to make sure that we're delivering for our students. Holding them back, I don't think is a direct result of what we need to be happening. There are different things that we can be looking at to make sure that our students and scholars are successful, not only in the classroom, but outside of it as well. I've been having conversations with educators and teachers about how they're feeling about things like this, and this is something that they've been talking about for a while, but I don't think it's
definitely a concern. All right.
Yeah.
Good conversation, ladies. As always, we look forward to talking with you in the future. Thank you so much, and we will be right back. And thank you for joining us for All Indiana Politics this Sunday. We'll be back here next Sunday morning at 9:30. You can also find our brand new All Indiana Politics podcast. It's part of the All Indiana Podcast Network over at wishtv.com. Have a great rest of your weekend.